the topic is education, but what I really like about talking about things this way is I'm talking about the economics of education. We're going to talk about the economics of the state of Illinois as well, because the two are intertwined, and all of you are feeling the brunt of how they're intertwined, and we're going to get to that. The economy of Illinois, as most of you know, is close to being in a shambles. I mean, we're at a point in time here in February of 2008 where the economy is kind of going on a downslope. Illinois has some very, very wealthy areas around the suburbs, and it has the big, powerful city of Chicago. But at the same time, there's like problems developing, some of these problems are there are many people in this area and in Waukegan and north of Waukegan and Zion that are being taxed out of their homes, and they want to know why they're being taxed out of their homes. And there are citizens groups around here that are trying to tell them why they're being taxed out of their homes and trying to help them out, but no one's really getting to the nub of why they're being taxed out, and I'm going to get to the nub. And I'm going to discuss this in economic and in moral terms, and I actually don't think that economics and morals are disconnected, because we all think about what is the right thing to do, how do we do things the right way for our society, for our children, for our neighbors. And I'm going to kind of go down that road a little bit too to try and show you how the two are connected. As a nation, we all want to provide, and I think most people would agree that we'd like to provide for an educated populace. And we're willing to pay for that. How many people in this room are willing to pay some taxes for an educated populace? Almost everybody. And everybody in this room, certainly. And there's a cost to that. And there's a cost to that in tax dollars, but there's another cost if it's not being done properly. And that cost is in the loss of human potential along with the loss of tax dollars. And tonight I'm going to explain to you where those tax dollars are going and how we can make those tax dollars go to the right place. And so with that, I'm going to set the stage about how to fix it. We already know that Illinois has some financial problems. We know citizens in Illinois are having financial problems. Very few people know that the state of Illinois is going broke. And it is going broke because of public pensions. And it is going broke because of public pensions of the education system in Illinois. Now, it's going broke for other reasons. The people in Springfield are spending too much money on a lot of other stuff. But what I'm going to present to you tonight is a way that we can fix the tax problem in Illinois and fix the education problem in Illinois all at one time. And then I'm going to ask you some questions, if you have any, about my idea, if you like it. And what this idea basically revolves around is fixing the education system. And if you take away 4 things from this presentation, 4 words, if you think about it, what 4 words can I take away from this presentation? It's fund children, not bureaucracies. Basically, it starts with this. You're going to like some of this. We're going to completely repeal the property tax for education in the state of Illinois. We're going to zero it out. Your property taxes that are maybe in the $5,000 or $6,000 or $10,000, some people are paying $10,000 per year in property taxes, they're going to go down about 60%, 65%. So just imagine paying that much fewer property taxes for your property. Now, of course, we have to do some different things, so we are going to have to increase taxes in other areas. But here's the good news. So we got the really good news, we're going to cut your property taxes 60%. We've got some bad news, which is we're going to have to raise property tax, we're going to have to raise taxes someplace else. And the good news is that the state of Illinois, when this is all said and done, and I'm going to hand out the numbers to you afterwards, is going to have about a $3 billion tax cut, which is going to be very good for the Illinois economy. That goes part and parcel with a very, very important education reform plan. So we're making use of economics by cutting taxes for the state of Illinois, for the citizens of Illinois, and all of the businesses, which pay a lot of property taxes as well. And we're going to reform education along economic lines. And that's going to be the fun part, because the first thing we're going to do, I don't have a chalkboard here, but if I did, I would write it down. We're going to take all the money that you're paying in property tax, or a lot of the money you're paying in property taxes, cut it down 60%, and then we're going to take the state of Illinois is going to raise some taxes, so all of the money to fund education is going to come from one source, which is the state. The state's going to get money coming in from the taxpayers. It's also going to get some federal money, and I'll break the numbers out for you if you want, but it's real simple. Then we're going to do something really innovative. And we're going to completely get rid of, we're going to zero out an essentially useless entity called a school district. We don't need it. And what do we do instead? We're going to make every single Illinois public school an independent charter school. Okay? So how many people have followed me so far? Pretty good? You're all on top of this? You're in a awake crowd for this hour of the evening. $3 billion tax cut, we're going to individually fund each child. So remember the 4 words, fund children, not bureaucracies. I didn't get my hands right there. The next thing we're going to do after we phase out the school district and convert every public school in Illinois to a charter is we're going to replace all of the state mandates. We've got mandates for special ed. We've got mandates for this, mandates for that. You've got a mandate that you have to have bilingual education. You have to have a mandate that there have to be enough social workers in every school district. What we're going to do instead of having all these mandates is we're going to take the money and we're going to stick it to the forehead of every child. The child is going to go to the school that their parents want them to go to, which in most cases will be the school that they're going to now. But what we're going to do is cut out an entire strata of bureaucracy as we do this. And as you get rid of the state mandates, you have to replace them with something. So instead of mandates, you basically come up with a uniform test that broadly measures how well each child does at the end of every year. But when we get into the details of this, we're also going to find out that if you've got a special needs child, or if you want to do something different, it's like, I don't really want my child to go to the same kind of cookie cutter school. The parent is going to have much more economic power to go to the district and to go to the people, to go to the school, I mean, and say to the school, this is what I'd like to do because we're going to have the entire school management structure change as well. Just imagine now, you have this entity called a school district, and they hire administrators, and they hire assistant administrators, and they hire curriculum managers, and then they hire directors, and then they've got some coordinators over here. How many people have seen the payroll list of almost every school district in the state of Illinois? Some of you have? Am I kidding? It has become so top-heavy in spending that what's really happened in the state of Illinois is that they're still saying they're educating the children, but they've taken your wish for an educated populace and they've converted it to a jobs program for a bunch of people who, as nice as they may be as people, basically are getting paid tens of thousands of dollars a year in salary to push paper around. When in fact, if you really want to empower the parent, if you really want to empower the citizen, you give the citizen a scholarship amount and you say every year this child can go to any school they want to, and then what you do is you take the schools, which are now independent charters, and anybody want to venture a guess as to who's going to run those independent charters? The parents. That's a very good answer. I was expecting someone in the audience to say, the big corporations are going to run the schools. But, maybe some companies will try and start some new innovative kind of schools, but for the most part, the school management structure in my plan is going to be set up so that the parents who choose the school are going to have a great deal of say over who's running it, over how things are done, and over who's teaching. There's another innovation I'm adding in here, and how many people know, for example, what the average state spending across all their children, the entire state, it's about $8,500, $8,900 per year per child. We're going to spend a little bit less per child. And what we're going to do as we spend this less amount per child, people are going to sit there and say, but you're cutting education spending. And the answer is, no, we're actually increasing education on the child, but we're cutting education spending on the bureaucracy. And you're going to find out, when you look at the details of this, that this is actually going to work. Because the whole goal here, again, is to economically empower the taxpayer and the citizen who wants an education for their child. And we are going to disempower the education bureaucracy, which is not the same thing. So, as I said with the 4 words, and who wants to say what those 4 words are?
Fund children, not bureaucracies.
Fund children, not bureaucracies, that's right. Those are the 4 words. If you're funding children, you don't have to give as much funds to get as much bang for the buck. So one of the innovations of this plan is that we're going to create in the new school code education savings accounts. And what people are going to be able to do is if you get let's say you get a $7,500 scholarship for your child. So Jeanette, if you take, that means you're going to get a total of $15,000 if you've got 2 children. And let's say you want to send them to the exact same school. There's going to be a transition period. There's going to be something that has to happen to make the existing system shift over to the new system. But as you do that, let's say the cost drops. Let's say all of a sudden some neighbor of yours opens up a small school and it's exactly the kind of school you want. And you go to them and say, well, how much is your tuition? And they say, it's $5,500. Well, you're getting a $7,500 scholarship. What this plan calls for is that you're going to be able to take the remainder of that money and you can use it for tutoring. You can use it for music lessons. You can use it for anything that falls under education. Or, exactly, you can save it for college. And here's a key insight that all of you have to know from an economic perspective. For what we are spending per child in schools across this nation today, and certainly in the state of Illinois, we could not only be funding their education, but we could be funding a good portion of their college education. So I'm going a little bit long in my presentation here, and I want to actually get to your questions if you have any. But what's going to happen as you look at this shift in economic incentives, not only are you going to get the economic benefit of a big tax cut, and I would venture to bet that most people would get a tax cut. There's going to be a few people who are going to get a tax increase under my plan. I have to admit that up front because I'm an honest guy. But what you want to do is you want to get most of the state having a tax cut, most of the businesses having a tax cut, and that is what's going to happen. And as that happens, the incentives are going to change because every child is going to have the money tied to them. So the money's going to follow the child. And it's going to flow into where the parents want that money to flow to. Someone's got some really wild cell phones. I was getting ready to duck. Okay, so here's the positive impact of this plan. Substantial relief for Illinois taxpayers, particularly among property taxes, which many of us in this area know are starting to push many retirees out of their homes. Increased revenues for the state government because we are going to engage in a tax shift that's a tax cut. I'm starting to sound like Steve Forbes. Increased local control of schools, because what we're doing is we're getting rid of the fake local control, this fictitious entity called a school district, which is not local control at all, and that's spelled out very clearly in my plan. And we're going to go to 100% local control because that money is going to follow the child. We're going to definitely see increased innovation in education because as people compete, more and more people are going to start competing for your children. They're going to start competing for, oh, I think I can do things better. The school that's a few blocks this way is doing a better job than the school that's a few blocks that way. And you're going to start getting increased education outcomes. And here's a tertiary benefit that people may not be thinking about, but you're going to get increased property values. The question was, am I counting more on the markets than I am the parents? And what I'm telling you is the parents are the market. Okay? Number one, every school is going to be wanting to compete for your dollars, your scholarship. So they're going to do a much better job of servicing the taxpayer and the parent than they are right now, because right now they are completely insulated from market forces. You can walk in and say, I want my child to have a balance. I don't want my child to have this balanced literacy program. I want my child to have a phonics program. And the schools can look at you and say, well, you can go down the street to the private school or the home school that does that, and we're going to get your tax dollars anyway. So the parents are the market in this case. And go ahead.
Another part is the mandates from the federal government. How does that
Good question. What I think would happen, and what I would argue for, is that you would go to the federal government and say, we're trying something very unique here, and we would like a 1 or 2 year block grant with all the oversight you could possibly ask us. We'll answer all your questions, we'll take care of all your needs, but the federal government is already doing a lot of block granting and a lot of mandating. They're saying, we want this to go to school lunches. Well, the school lunch money might not be available for the scholarship program, but a certain amount of the federal dollars are going to be available for the scholarship program. And at some level, how lenient they are depends on which, flavor is in power at the time. The flavor being Democrat or Republican.
Get as far as the education from, like a teacher from Highland Park.
Okay. Let me tell you how my plan solves that problem. Right now, you have a horribly unequal system that is being locked in place because you have, again, this thing called the school district. Waukegan, for example, has all kinds of spending. They have spending on security. They have more spending on bilingual education, which is not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. Again, I would say the parents should be the one to decide. But what my system does is, by getting rid of the school district first, making each school an independent entity that can decide how it wants to educate second, and then also third, allowing for new entrants into the marketplace, a series of things happen. Number one, the advantage that the wealthy areas already have, they're still going to be there. We're not taking any advantages away. What we are doing is we're saying, well, with every single new school, with every single school being turned into a 501c3 charter school that can raise money, all of a sudden the schools in Waukegan and the schools in some of the rural areas, they will be able to raise funds from the corporate sector. They will be able to raise funds, and those are all tax deductible for educational purposes. This is what I'd like to end with. Figuratively, in one hand, hold up your left hand, everybody. Okay, and pretend that you're holding in your left hand a small piece of paper, and that represents your vote for an essentially powerless school. Okay? And now hold up in your right hand a $7,500 scholarship that you get to decide where your child goes to school and how they're educated. And while you're contemplating which one of these has more value for you, contemplate a 66% reduction in your property tax. Thank you very much. I appreciate that you all came out and listened to me today.
And if you wanna be the teacher's pet, well, baby, you just better forget it. Rock out the rhythm, rock out the rhyme. You better get me to school on time. And if you wanna be the teacher's pet, well, baby, you just better forget it. Rock out the rhythm, rock out the rhyme. You better get me to school on time. This is my final exam. Now y'all know who I am. I might not be that perfect son, but y'all be rocking when I'm done.